Hi there, and welcome to a Let's Type episode from the Commodore 64 Appreciation Society. This is a series where I type out a program from an old computer magazine, and then when I finish typing it in, I play it. Shuttle Escape is a program with two heads, both running at the same time, and mostly minding their own business. There's a part written in BASIC, the part you can actually read. It handles the thinking, the rules, the obstacles, the game state. And then there's another part, written entirely in machine language, running alongside it. That part handles the gameplay, animation, collisions, scoring, that kind of thing. And here's the cool thing, they're not taking turns. They're both running at the same time and is barely aware of what the other one's up to. It's a unique approach to a type-in, and it's one of the Commodore 64's coolest tricks. I am really excited to see how this one turns out. Let's get typing. Shuttle Escape was written by Matt Guywer, who you might remember from Blockhead, a game we covered earlier in the series. And like with Blockhead, this one was heavily modified by Compute Magazine. In fact, Guywer's original game isn't even called Shuttle Escape, it's called Moving Maze. He wrote it for Atari 8-bit computers, and the goal is to reach the treasure at the end of a shifting maze, all while avoiding a roaming enemy. It's a cool premise, and it's the version Guywer originally wrote. But the Commodore 64 version is something different entirely. In this one, you aren't an adventurer searching for treasure. You control a space shuttle, trying to conserve fuel as you cross a shifting maze in space, avoiding the occasional obstacle. At its core, the gameplay is similar, but everything around it has been completely reworked. Maybe Compute was just leaning into the space shuttle program. It was very popular in 1983. Regardless of the reason, it's interesting. I've only come across two type-ins that were modified this heavily, and both of them were games written by Matt Guywer. As far as type-ins go, this one's a bit of a monster. It spans 5 pages, about half of it is written in BASIC, and the second half is all data statements for the sprites in machine language. So already, I know I'm in for a bit of a project. It'll probably take a couple of hours to type in. But that's fine. You know what's less fine? There isn't a proofreader. Compute Magazine's automatic proofreader, pretty much the gold standard, was released this same month, but only in Compute's Gazette. It wouldn't show up in Compute's main magazine for another few months. So this means I'm basically coding without a net, which almost guarantees there'll be a bunch of debugging later. And to be honest, those big machine language sections are never that fun to type in or debug. But hey, we'll get through it. I've gotta say, typing long strings of PETSCII characters is just so much easier on my Ultimate than it is on an emulator. But it can still be tricky. One missing space or cursor command, and whatever this is, probably the title, won't turn out right. Fortunately, it's really easy to check and correct things along the way. Oops, and right off the bat, I can see that I messed up the first line with an extra character. Yeah, that should have been a color code, not a symbol. Well, that's a lot better. Now to just finish the second part. There's something wrong with that last line. Obviously, we don't have to worry about the return error. That's expected here. I'm just going to retype it out. And here we go. Very cool. Well, if nothing else works, at least it has a cool title. I mentioned earlier that Shuttle Escape is a two-headed program, and both heads are doing their own thing. Splitting the work like this, having two parts effectively running at once, was pretty unusual, especially for a type-in. It's pretty brilliant though. The way they did it here is through interrupts. Like a heartbeat, the Commodore 64 CPU is interrupted 60 times a second, 50 on PAL machines. When this happens, the CPU pauses to run a short routine before resuming whatever it was doing. Normally, that routine handles low-level housekeeping, scanning the keyboard, blinking the cursor, things like that. But that system can be hijacked, and that's exactly what's happening here. Shuttle Escape loads its own machine code into that interrupt routine. So instead of just handling housekeeping, it also runs that part of the game code 60 times a second, checking for joystick input, playing sounds, and moving everything on screen. Meanwhile, the basic routine is running its own loop, managing game state and creating obstacles, but mostly, it's just waiting for the machine language code to signal that the game has ended. And when that happens, BASIC takes over completely until the game is restarted. It's a really clever setup, and it's worth taking a closer look at how it all fits together. During gameplay, Shuttle Escape is basically two programs running at once, and how it does this is extremely cool. It all starts here. That runs the machine language code, and the first thing the code does is to change the 64's IRQ vector, which is just a fancy way of saying that it redirects the system so that each interrupt now runs the game's code first before returning to the normal system routine. Once that has been set up, the machine language for the game runs at every interrupt, so 60 times per second, 50 on PAL, until the machine language routine decides the game is over. Meanwhile, BASIC is also running a loop of its own. BASIC then operates as a traffic cop, keeping things in order and waiting for the signal to end the game. Here's how that works. BASIC enters the main gameplay loop at line 4140. This line is our escape valve. Every time through the loop, BASIC peeks into memory location 2. If it contains a value of 255, which would be placed there by the machine language routine, it jumps over to the end game at line 20,000. But if that doesn't happen, it just keeps going through its gameplay loop. The next line is the pause check. If shift is held down, BASIC waits here, and the machine language interrupt routine checks the same key flag, so it also pauses. So, both heads of the program check for the pause condition independently. 4160 then determines whether to place a new obstacle or not. Basically, there is a 95% chance that no obstacle will be placed, and if that's the case, go back to the beginning and continue looping. If an obstacle is to be placed, the next few lines determine what the obstacle is and where to put it. The objects themselves are placed by one of these poke statements before going back to the start of the loop. If an obstacle is poked into existence, the ML routine will see it on the next interrupt and deal with it accordingly. And really, that's the loop. But we're not done with our two-headed story quite yet, because when the game ends, BASIC generates the final screen that shows our score. The problem, BASIC doesn't actually know what it is. During the game, scoring is handled entirely by machine language. So, at the very start of the end game routine, it actually grabs the score by reading the value directly from the screen memory. Two programs running side by side with just a handful of connection points between them. Cool, right? I'm not gonna lie, this one has been an absolute monster to type in. I've been taking things a little bit slower than normal just to be as accurate as possible. It's so much easier with a proofreader. But now I'm approaching the end, and as estimated, it's taken me about 2 hours to get here. And to be honest, I'm not expecting this to just run. I know there are going to be problems in here. And done. And yeah, this is a big one. 49 blocks, or just a bit over 12K. Definitely one of the largest programs that I've typed. Okay, down the hatch. Let's see what kind of mess I made here. Oh hey, check it out. Cool looking title. Granted, I already knew that title would look good. There are two data sections that it loads. The first is for the sprites, and the second is for all of the machine language data. Yeah, and here we go. The first checks some errors for the sprites, so I'm going to go and review them. And yeah, there were 3 or 4 errors, including an entire missing line. So as long as the countdown gets further than the last, it stopped at 105 before, it means that the sprites are in good shape. And cool. Okay, while we wait, just an interesting side note about the timer. It's cool, right? And at first, I thought it was a really neat trick that it knew how many seconds to count down from. But it turns out that the values are hard-coded, which means that the developer actually timed, probably with a stopwatch or something, how long it took and then set the timer values. So, not as clever as I thought, but still a really nice trick. I documented it in the Basic Bits channel of our Discord in case you want to use it in one of your programs. And if you have any cool tricks of your own you want to share, would love to see them. The link to the Discord is in the description. 4, 3, 2, 1. We have an error. Of course, there was no way I was getting through all of that perfect the first time through. Time to review all of those lines. And I think we got them all. That took about half an hour, and I found a handful of data errors in the ML section. So now the data is being read correctly. And of course, we get a syntax error. Not a surprise, though. Oh, there it is. Classic typo. And here's another one. Yeah, that should be an equal sign. Okay, let's run this again. 4, 3, 2, 1. And liftoff. Wow, literally in this case, what a cool intro. Oh, so close. Illegal quantity error, huh? I don't like those. It means one of the values in that line is set poorly, which could have been done anywhere in the program. Alright, but before I commit to a full code review, I'm going to check later issues to see if there was a correction. And nice, the January edition of Compute, 3 months later, did have a correction. The correction updates the variables used in the game's internal checksum routines. There must have been a conflict somewhere else in the code. So, hopefully this works now. Let's try this again.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all engines running, launch commit. Liftoff, we have liftoff.
Oh, nice. That's even cooler now. I love how the fuel tank falls away and disintegrates. This is no longer just a cool intro. It's probably the best intro for a type-in I've ever seen. Fantastic work. And here we go. Oh, or not. The game crashed. What a tease. Why couldn't it tell me what line the syntax error was on? Well, here we go. Time for that code review anyway. Okay, that wasn't too bad. It took just a few minutes and I found the error. Remember line 4140? That critical line in the main game loop? Well, it was missing the letter F in F. I found a couple of other minor issues as well, but the basic code ended up being typed in very accurately. Good job, Brian. Sweet, here we are. And damn, missed the gap. The idea is to get across to the right before losing all my fuel. Can I go through the barrier? Huh, yeah, but man, it drained all my fuel. Oops, syntax error. I'm missing D and. That should take care of that. Okay, we're back. Let's see if I can make it across. Man, those obstacles take all your fuel. Oh no. And yeah, predictable. Out of fuel. Okay, let's... Oh, that was weird. It just skipped the end screen. I'll look into that in a bit. In the meantime, let's get this shuttle to safety. I've got to say, this is pretty slick. The controls are spot on and everything moves so smoothly. Wait for it. Haha, made it. Oh, okay. I'm back at the beginning. This is obviously the entire game then, and the goal is to simply get as many points as possible. Oh, done. There's that fast ending screen again. Let's just take care of that. This feels like it should be the last issue in the game. There's the problem. I had an equal sign in there when it should have been a does not equal. Yeah, that explains it. And I think we're now in great shape. The game is working perfectly. A huge congrats to Matt Guywer on another fantastic game, and what an amazing port by the team at Compute. What I love about this one is how it all just fits together. You have BASIC doing its thing, machine language doing its thing, and neither one knows the whole picture. But together, they create something that just works. And even more amazing, all of this came from a $2 magazine and just a few hours of work. Not bad. Happy flying. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. And if you have any memories of Shuttle Escape, Compute, or typing in your own programs, I'd love to hear them. Drop them in the comments. Oh, and don't forget to pop by our Discord if you'd like to download a copy of the game. Hope to see you again.